Welcome to this candidate forum for the Sunnyvale School District. I'm Roberta Holloman, a member of the League of Women Voters, and I'll be moderating tonight's forum. The League of Women Voters hosts forums like this to allow voters to see the candidates and to hear them address questions of interest to the public. Our goal is to enable voters to learn about the candidates so they can make informed choices. The League of Women Voters never endorses or opposes a candidate or a political party. 3 of the 5 seats on the Board of Trustees for Sunnyvale School District are up for election this November. 3 of the 4 candidates are here tonight. They are Jeff Arnett, Michelle Maginot, and Bridget Waston. Voters in this district may vote for 3 candidates. The 3 candidates that get the most votes in November will be elected to the school board. The candidates have agreed to a format and ground rules for tonight's forum. The format is simple. I will pose questions to the candidates, and each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond. A timer seated in the front of the room will give candidates visual signals to help them pace their responses. The questions for tonight's forum were developed by a team of League members based upon their own research and questions submitted by the public via email. Since we received ample questions from the public in advance, we are not collecting more questions from the audience tonight. This forum is being recorded and will be aired later on YouTube. The ground rules ask the candidates not to use forum recordings for campaign purposes. We also encourage the audience not to record the forum because we want it to be shown in its entirety. We'll tell you how to access the forum video at the end of tonight's program. Finally, we ask the audience to refrain from displays of support or opposition. Please hold your applause until the end of the forum. We'll now turn our attention to the candidates. Thank you all for running for office and participating in this forum. So we'll start with your opening statements. You'll each have 1 minute to respond to the opening statement, and we'll start with Jeff Arnett.
Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Jeff Arnett. I'm running for re-election. This will be this December. I actually did the math. I think I've communicated wrong earlier. It was actually 15 years this December. And I, lifelong Sunnyvale resident, grew up in Lakewood, product of Lakewood Elementary. I have a daughter in Ellis, and this school board I think I've developed professionally as well as a community member in my time on the board, and I really love it.
Thank you. Michelle?
I just want to start off and say thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this and putting it together, and for all of you guys for being here tonight. I have been on the school board for almost 1.5 years when I was appointed from a field of 9 candidates to fill a vacancy. I grew up in Sunnyvale as well. I attended Cumberland, Sunnyvale Middle School, and Fremont High School, and now my 3 children are in the district, with my oldest in 6th grade and my youngest in kindergarten. As I reflected on this last year, I realized much of what I'm doing is about building connections and building bridges. And so I came up with the phrase, building bridges to better education. Some of those bridges that are important to me that I want to share with you tonight is empowering and encouraging family involvement in education, building social, emotional learning and cultural understanding in all of our classrooms, working to close the opportunity and achievement gaps, and continuing to hire and retain excellent teachers. And I hope you will support me in helping to build better bridges to building bridges to better education.
Thank you. Bridget?
Hi, so thank you as well, League of Women Voters and everyone who came. I'm a mom, I'm a credentialed teacher, and I'm an active parent volunteer in the district. Both of my children attended Sunnyvale School District, kindergarten through 8th grade. And I was a teacher in the district at Fairwood Elementary School. I'm running because I've recently started paying more attention to policy, and I really believe that policy matters. I'm hoping to leverage my experience within the district to have a greater impact. I'm really passionate about supporting students, teachers, and families And it is a challenge for me. It's a growth opportunity for me, and I've always challenged my own children to do challenging things, so I'm walking the talk.
Thank you. I didn't explain at the beginning that the timers will tell you when you have 30 seconds left and when you have 15 seconds left, and then they're stopped. So, okay? So for the first question, we're going to start at the other end with Bridget. And the question is, what demonstrated prior experiences make you qualified for the board role?
Okay, so one of my degrees is I have a master's in English literature, so it will be great for something. It should help with all the writing and reading and analyzing the text of the board packets that we get, and really speaking and discussing with people and communicating ideas and listening to people in the community and trying to bridge that communication. Also, I believe that there are some speeches that you give at commencements and things. As a teacher, I was very organized. I learned how to organize not just the students in my classroom, but I was at a parent participation program, so I had to make really great use of the parents' time when they were in the classroom. So I'm organized, I can collaborate, work on teams, work independently, and I've coordinated a lot of larger volunteer efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle?
Could you repeat the question again?
Yes. What demonstrated prior experiences make you qualified for the board role?
Thank you. Well, I'd say the first is, as I mentioned earlier, that I have been on the board for almost a year and a half now. And in that time, I have attended the Masters in Governance classes to help me learn the roles of a board member and how to be a more effective and productive board member. I've also attended many conferences and seminars and to learn more about education and about good governance. I also this last year participated in Leadership Sunnyvale, where I connected with many people in the community and learned how to be an effective leader. And then in the last year, I've also met with all the principals at the 10 schools and talked with many parents and teachers of the different schools. I've also attended many of the PTAs at most of the schools, all of which have helped me better understand the needs and issues that are most important to each of our schools and have taught me how to be an effective board member. And I think another piece that I bring is that I'm really good at looking at all sides and perspectives of an issue and a topic.
Thank you. Jeff?
Thank you. So just like Bridget, I'm also a credentialed teacher. I also hold my admin credential for public education, and I'm a working administrator. I also have been a part of the community activism, the local community. In fact, that's how I got involved in the board in the first place. I know the importance of that it's not just the school board, it's about partnerships that we create. It's really a community working together to, especially in this time of budgetary troubles, to help make the most do with the money that we do get. And like Michelle, also a graduate of Leadership Sunnyvale. I think we're pretty blessed in Sunnyvale, the fact that we have a pretty tight community that works well together and making contacts and listening to the right people and forming decisions and keeping. And I think that's a part of also how we as a family maintain our educators too, is retaining and hiring good educators. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next question we're going to start with Michelle and go that way. How will you stay informed of the needs of the constituents across the entire district?
I would say a lot of what I'd mentioned earlier about the things that I have been doing, where I've been going out and meeting with the principals and meeting with parents and going to PTA meetings. One of the things that I brought before getting on the board is that I know families at all 10 schools in our district. And then in the last year and a half, I have met even more families in the district to kind of connect with. And those families at those different schools, I often talk to them about education, about what's happening in their classrooms and with their students. Additionally, I plan to continue to work with district staff and families on effective ways to reach out and receive input from parents and community members. And kind of getting more creative with how we do that. We're on the right track, but let's figure out more creative ways to reach our families so we can get that input from them and know their needs and what they're wanting.
Thank you. Bridget?
Well, like Michelle, I also went out to meet all the principals and tried to get a good understanding of what the different schools' strengths were as well as their needs. I think that it's really important to communicate with people, so particularly where they are. So when I was listening to some other board members, my understanding is that some boards are trying to, I'm sorry, I'm really distracted by the ringing. I don't know what's happening.
Our alarm clock is alarming.
Okay, so anyway, one idea that I saw was that some school boards are starting to have their board meetings actually out at the school sites, which I thought was a really great idea, a great way to have more of an opportunity for people who live in some communities that don't normally come to the school board meetings to try to get them to come. And then also some school board members in other districts nearby are starting to have office hours, not just at the schools like coffee with the principal type of thing, but also like just actually in the community itself. So I thought that was great. But basically just being approachable and going to as many events as possible. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes. How will you stay informed of the needs of the constituents across the entire district?
So I think the board members, we challenge ourselves to go to the open houses, back to school nights, and I know there's been a push to go to the PTA meetings as often as possible with communities. And I do believe in all that. I know that we've also made a lot of effort to push out to the communities for online communication, and that's part of that's also polling to get information back. But mostly, in Sunnyvale, I've never really had a hard time finding people are willing to express themselves. So I've been approached in supermarkets, at events, those who know me, and I plan on getting out as much as possible. And I'm probably, work is often challenging for me, but I still get out there on the weekends. My daughter kind of pushes me out there as well to events, and I'm still, again, approachable to the parents. But part of that is also relying on our principals to bring information to us and to hear them out and the needs of the in these communities. Thank you. It's a hard format to get used to.
Okay, I'll ask the audience to not speak, please. So the next question, we're going to start with Bridget. What budget challenges do you see the district needing to address over the next 5 years?
Well, first off, I think that we are one of my big priorities would be to look at the needs of the low socioeconomic status students, and I think that the CASP test scores were just released, and it looks like we're still having a hard time moving the needle on them. So I think it would be not doing the right thing if we just said we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to do more of it, even though we're making a little bit of progress. We're just not meeting their educational needs. So I would say we would probably have to maybe look at reorganizing things around that. Also, we do live in a very high-cost area. I was reading online today that in one study last year, when we adjust for the rate of housing per student in California, we're actually pretty low, even though in other studies we're more in the middle if we don't do that, and we spend more than California overall. But I think teacher retention is going to be a problem if we don't take a look at either transportation or housing. I know that the district just renegotiated a contract with the teachers, but...
Okay, thank you. Your time is up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay. Michelle?
Well, I would say that our district is actually well positioned financially right now, but then there is concerns about long-term trends and things that could impact our district budget. I think some of those would include the possibility of future recessions or downturn in the market, the escalating costs of special education, and especially the costs of the pensions. Then also, as Bridget mentioned, that teachers being priced out of the area, and how it will get harder to attract and retain talented staff. And then I also just kind of wanted to mention in general, again, kind of what Bridget said, that California is in the bottom 10 states in per pupil spending in the nation. Our district is doing slightly better. We're around the national average, but with the high cost of living in this area and the additional increases in education costs, it's simply not enough funding. And education in California is not adequately funded.
Thank you. Jeff?
I think you're going to hear a lot of repeating information on this, but teacher, staff, cost of living allowance, just allowing them to have a quality life and housing. I think that kind of also reaches out to our community of students as well, is the pressures of the financial realities of our school, for our families, causes a lot of burden for our students as well. And there's some socioeconomic, socio-emotional components to that. We need to make sure our students are supported through counseling and emotional support, and which helps with their academic drive as well. CalSTR's contribution on the budget, the teacher retirement system, is just encroaching on the budget, and this is something that needs state activity or activism and awareness to our local officials. That's something I think I need to get a little better about and drive a little further, harder on.
Okay, thank you. The next question, we're going to start with you, Jeff. This question, several of you have already touched on this, but perhaps you could give us more information on how you would deal with it. It is hard to hire and retain good teachers in this high cost of living area. How would you address this problem? Jeff?
Well, this is something that we often discuss throughout the years, and I think we've many school districts have talked about providing housing for teachers, but that also has some burdens. I don't know if that necessarily really supports our teachers to deal with the cost of living when they actually outlive the term of their housing requirement. But I think our partnership opportunities, the landed.com, the Landed Foundation, which helps, it's kind of a really innovative program to get some of our employees into housing quickly and give them the support for lifelong housing. I think we're going to need to develop some innovative policies or systems in order to reach out to support our family, our teachers, like mortgage rebates or less mortgage rates. I mean, these are some difficult questions that is going to be difficult. This needs to be innovative to discover. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Thank you. Michelle?
I think I would echo a lot of what Jeff said. And organizations like Landed is one where it helps teachers, helps them pay, like with part of their down payment. And I think finding other organizations to do that and partnering, as Jeff mentioned. I also think, again, as we've talked about, that we live in an area that's one of the highest cost of living areas in the country. And currently, right now, we are actually doing fairly well with hiring and retaining excellent teachers, but I think it will get harder in the future. And I think some of the things that we can do also to help with that is to create an environment where the teachers feel respected and supported and valued will be an important piece in having those excellent teachers stay here. And I also just wanted to mention that we were able to give our teachers a raise. So in the next 3 years, they will be getting a 10% over the next 3 years. So we're in a good place right now.
Bridget?
Okay, yeah, so I think the contract is great. The new contract is great. It makes them competitive with the other districts nearby, and I think that's really positive. And I think the district offers a lot of other things for new teachers and teachers in general, such as the teacher induction program, lots of professional development. And I think that more and more, it's important to kind of build that culture of showing appreciation, like Michelle said, and really giving them the supports, because we ask the teachers to do a lot. When I talked to Mala, who's the head of curriculum, she basically said, we're asking the teachers to adopt new curriculum and to do new things, and we're putting a lot of pressures on them all the time to do more and more, so we need to support them at the same time. So I think we just have to find that balance.
Thank you. So, right, you all have had a chance to answer that one. Sometimes I make a mistake. So, the next one we will start with Bridget. This is a question about the existing board's performance. Based on your experiences in observing the current board, what are they doing well? And if you become a trustee or become a trustee again, what would you like to see changed?
Well, I've been to several board meetings recently. They're really well run. People on the board are very respectful and cooperative with one another without it being too intimidating, like everyone's so chummy. I feel like they work really well together, and they have different backgrounds and different perspectives, but it seems like everyone's really committed to the students, so that's something I definitely would want to be a part of. One thing I thought maybe that I could be a part of helping grow with the board was be possibly to get more direct feedback from the teachers themselves and the staff. I think sometimes, having been a teacher, as a teacher, you're very intimidated by the board. It's very scary when they walk in your room and you start talking to them, and then all of a sudden you start realizing, oh no, I'm talking to a board member, and you slow down. So I think if we can find a way to get direct feedback from them in another way, less intimidating way, that might be positive.
Thank you. And Jeff? Wait, no, Michelle is next. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I thought you were switching it up.
You want me to go?
Michelle, please. Thank you.
I would echo again a lot of the things that Bridget said about things that are going well. I think we're a team who is engaged and asks thoughtful and meaningful questions. We're all respectful and supportive of each other and also of our district staff. And when we work well with district staff, asking questions and getting the information we need to then make sound, good decisions. I think another thing I kind of wanted to mention that that the board, kind of one of our accomplishments recently, is that we are working on renovating the schools. And Bishop is still under construction, but the kids are in their new classrooms there, and they are loving those new classrooms. And then I would say for what would you change? There's probably kind of two pieces, and one would be for us as a board to kind of have more intentional and thoughtful discussions about what our role as board members is and how we can best accomplish that. And then what I talked about earlier about finding ways to engage more families and getting more input from families in the school district.
Thank you. Jeff?
I think our community is pretty blessed with the board. We have a diverse board as far as backgrounds and personalities, and I think each of us have a different role that really work well with each other, and yet we're still comfortable with disagreeing with each other and respectful enough to allow that disagreement to happen when we articulate it. And we feel comfortable articulating the disagreement as well, too. But we have board members that are very driven. They go out, educate themselves pretty easily, quickly. I mean, the learning curve is always phenomenal. Always very impressed with new board members that come on. And I have my confidences with Bridget as well. I think that'll happen as well with her. But I think with me, it would be more of my time demands have been encroached upon in my personal life a little bit, but I want to return back to the basics a little bit and maybe reach out on the state level more and pick up my activism like when I did when I first came on the board. That was kind of a passion of mine, and then I became a little more local. So.
Thank you. So we'll start with Michelle for the next question. What does academic excellence mean to you?
I would say there's quite a few components to academic excellence. I would say academic excellence requires truly believing that every child can learn and achieve. And I would say it's a balance between academic success and social emotional skills, including resiliency, kindness, and compassion, so that students can succeed in whatever pathway they choose. I also think another piece, it's not a direct answer to academic excellence, but it helps create academic excellence, is kind of this idea there's four components to successful schools, which then I think creates that academic excellence. And the four pieces are having curious students, having a well-educated, highly motivated, caring staff, having strong, competent instructional leaders, and then having active, involved parents in a wider community. And when you bring those four together with the things before, then you will have a whole child academic excellence.
Bridget?
Okay, so I agree with everything she just said. That was a great answer. Yeah, and I just to add on to it, I mean, our schools, the age that the children are in our schools, the students, it covers everything from early childhood to early adolescence. So when you talk about academic excellence for a kindergartner, it's very different than the academic excellence we're expecting our 8th graders, as they're just about to enter high school and enter full-blown adolescence any minute. So I think that, when I think of it as being kind of a culture of the school and a culture of the district, which would be, a lot of pretty much everything Michelle said, but just in terms of really helping the children to have a growth mindset and to, embrace perseverance and embrace some of the struggle to get that knowledge and to feel great about it.
Thank you. Jeff?
I think we are academic excellent when we are aware of how we learn best and understanding that we're all unique learners and having the patience with ourselves to know when we're being challenged in other aspects of our life and still pressing ourselves academically to go further. And some people that means advanced placement, some people that means recuperating a little bit and advancing at a more of a remedial sense. But it's basically the point when we have that lifelong love of learning that's instilled on us and that resiliency piece that allows us to keep going even when we're pushing ourselves and fail. Not being afraid to fail and learning from the failures and pushing forward and excelling even further.
Thank you. And we're going to start the next one with Bridget. Why should citizens without children care about this election?
Well, when I was walking around the neighborhoods last weekend, I met some of the people who don't have children, and they were in the, they were in the environment, and they were very concerned about the students, not just because they were bicycling in packs and they were afraid that they were going to get run over or, bump into their car or something, but because they were very aware that the kids are, we're creating the culture in the schools and the kind of skills that they learn in the schools, both in terms of the kind of person they're going to be. A lot of that is part of their experience and between the school and the home, just that partnership. It's all built there. So I think if they want to have the neighborhood grow and be respected and be have things work well and have great citizens in the neighborhood, they're going to want the schools to do well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. Why should citizens without children care about this election?
I think there are a couple pieces to that. One, I think, is the idea that the students that we are teaching in our district are going to grow up and then have the jobs in our community, right? So they're going to be the people who are taking care of our roads. They're going to be our doctors. They're going to be our teachers. They're going to be the ones taking care of our community, right? So as all community members, we want our students to get the best education possible and to be prepared for the career pathway that they choose. And I think another piece, which we had talked about this a while back at kind of a board development meeting, was the idea that the schools are they're always there, right? There's lots of things in our society that are changing, but a school is there, and that school can create a community more than just the students in that community, but it can create the community of people around, which then benefits the whole community as we gather and whatnot.
Thank you. Jeff?
Building on that, the schools are our community centers. They are sort of the centerpieces to the communities that make up Sunnyvale. The board has a lot of responsibility over that to maintain and to improve those sites. But even a little closer to home is, if you have no children, your neighbors do. And these are our neighbors, and we care. I mean, this is Sunnyvale. We know that our kids grow up and they stay in Sunnyvale. That's the hope. And they become leaders, and that's what I did. And I would love it if my daughter grew up and stayed in Sunnyvale as well. And I want her to be as prepared and fulfilled to do what she wants to do and not feel like she has to settle on something. And I think education is the key component to being able to achieve what you want professionally or personally.
Thank you. And we're going to start with Jeff with the next question. Do you see progress being made to close the achievement gap?
Yes and no. The scores are frustrating. There is an achievement gap. We've been trying to tackle it, and I think Sunnyvale has done a great job with reaching out to the students that are most in need. I think some of the partnerships that we have really help support the achievement. I think the achievement gap mostly is, I think there's some real life obstacles that we have to overcome, and I think Sunnyvale's aware of that. Sunnyvale School District's created the summer lunch program for one, to prevent the summer slide of our students. We have summer programs to reach out to those students that are struggling. There's a lot more work to do, and this is not an easy answer. It's going to be wrapped up in a minute, but so I think we're making some headway, but we have more work to do.
Thank you. Excuse me. I got a little mixed up here. So next is Michelle.
All right, could you repeat the question again?
Sure. Do you see progress being made to close the achievement gap?
So I would say kind of similar to Jeff, that we are making some progress, but it's not enough, and we feel like we're doing all these great things, and why are we not seeing as many changes? And there still is that significant achievement, and I would also add to that opportunity gap. There's achievement opportunity gap between our socioeconomically disadvantaged and our non-socioeconomically disadvantaged students. And I think one of the things that we're really trying to focus on right now is focusing our resources and intensifying our efforts on early literacy development and math proficiency. And I think also another thing that will help is if we really meet students where they're at. So every student in our district has different needs and is at different places, and so we need to support them where they're at and then challenge them where they're at to then be able to hopefully close that achievement and opportunity gap.
Bridget?
Okay, so I was thinking about this quite a bit because it just seems so horribly unfair in so many ways. And it's a complex problem, it's a complex issue, but it seems like there are some things that the districts is doing that are really exciting, and I hope that we can build upon. Like, for example, and there are ideas that are generated when you go to the educators who understand the kids that they're working with. Like, for example, at Columbia Middle School, they have the Strive program, which is where they took a whole teacher staff development day and they explained, this is our problem. How are we going to deal with these kids at our specific site with these heavy needs. How are we going to meet this group's needs? And what they did was the teachers collaborated, and they figured out strategies, and they came back to their administrator with their proposal, and then the school board funded it. So now there's a pilot program at that school. So I'm really interested in seeing how something like that, that's organic, that's from the teachers and from the community, and that's very tailored to those student needs,
I think
see how that does.
Time is up.
Okay.
Okay. So you all had a chance to answer that one, right?
It's a large question.
It's a big one.
And we'll start with Michelle this time. Do charter schools have a role to play in the Sunnyvale School District?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Do charter schools have a role to play in the Sunnyvale School District?
I think, so that's a hard question, and a hard question with what has happened in the last few years and also the last few months in our district. So I think it does come down to like what the community wants, and then also like with charter schools, if there are some charter schools out there that are doing wonderful things, that are closing those achievement gaps and are providing needs for students that that maybe weren't getting a chance elsewhere. But then there are some charter schools that are leading to segregation in our schools. And so I think finding that balance, right? Finding the balance of if there is a need for a charter school, if the district is not providing variety of education and different, I guess, kind of different learning styles, and if enough of the community wants it, then you work together to figure out what will work best for all the students.
Jeff?
No. I think Sunnyvale is well-run. I think we're community-oriented. I think if you have some changes you would like to see happen, I think you can come to the district, to the board, and we would hear that out, and we would actually look for ideas. I think Fairwood Explorer program is a wonderful example of that, how they came forward. They saw a need that we weren't serving. We worked with them, and they have a program that's thrived over the years. I think charters, to me, are often school or people that don't want to work with you. They think they have the best ideas, and in that sense, they're a bit isolationist for me. I think there are some exceptions to that rule. I think San Jose Conservation Corps is a good example of a charter school that works, but that's working with a population that's so underserved that the school districts are not even identified those populations, and they're working with them. So I will say, no, there are some exceptions. I don't see it for Sunnyvale, though.
Bridget?
Well, to add on to what Jeff said, I feel like Sunnyvale has all these programs of choice right now, which they're more like magnet programs than charter schools. And you know, I taught at Fairwood Explorer, so it's a program of choice that's just project-based learning, and it's parent participation. But those parents created that program, and I know that some of those parents that weren't quite happy with how Fairwood was going decided to go and start, you know, to find a charter and do the whole charter school thing. So I feel like we have the dual immersion program, we have the Fairwood Explorer program, and we have Tech EQ and the science program at Vargas. I feel like there's so many choices that it's almost as though all the choices are becoming their own problem, because it's creating a little bit of a niche for who can get there or not, you know? So I feel like the problems that we have, that we have more to do to make what we have work.
Okay, thank you. The next question, we're going to start with Bridget. And you mentioned this as you were just speaking. But here's the question. Okay. Can technology be used to improve educational efforts in the Sunnyvale School District?
Can you say that one more time?
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking too much.
Can technology be used to improve educational efforts in the Sunnyvale School District?
Well, I think that technology is improving the efforts to increase the students' proficiency at things in Sunnyvale School District, because we're trying to get to a 1-to-1 ratio wherever we can for the grades that have standardized testing so that they're more proficient, they can find the information. I volunteer in a English language learner, like the very newcomer classroom, and we use differentiated reading programs for them. I don't know that there's any way that a middle school teacher who teaches 6th through 8th grade, who has students come in from all over the world that are totally different reading levels, could manage meeting them at their level without some sort of technology or even some of the translation that they do. So I just think that it's more seamless for the students than it is for the adults. And so it's almost as though we're catching up with how to utilize it best.
Okay, thank you. Michelle?
Can you repeat the question again?
Mm-hmm. Can technology be used to improve educational efforts in the Sunnyvale School District?
I would say yes, and I would say that there's kind of several main parts to how technology can help improve education and build upon education. I would say one is kind of the obvious of technology in the classroom, but I think an important piece is not only do we want to have the technology in the classroom, which we do have that technology in the classroom, but making that technology meaningful and really not just having it there, but having instructions with it that are engaging and not just here, go do this activity, but let's use this technology and create stuff with it and build. I would say then another piece is like for the teacher side, right? As we create technology and just the technology that's out there for teachers' professional development, the technology can benefit the teachers through their development, and then also their instructional, like when they do assessments, they can get real-time data and various things that will help them with that. And then I would say the third piece is the parent side and having technology that helps the parents connect with the district in meaningful ways.
Thank you. And Jeff?
Yeah, I think Sunnyvale's been pretty good about adapting to technology. I think we haven't been perfect, but I think we are getting there. The younger teachers are certainly helping us develop, and actually we're learning from them. I think actually we're in a place right now where we're learning from our students. The education's relevant, and I think it's open enough that that we're adapting to what our students need, and the students are sometimes showing us the way on how to get there. I also appreciate the aspect of technology reaching the classroom out, and I've seen some teachers sort of do this like real-time demonstration of student work to their parents, and it's amazing, and it really has a way of keeping you close to your child while they're at school. Separation of distance, but you're almost like you're in there, and the students are so creative. It's amazing.
Thank you. And now we're going to turn to a question. In lieu of a closing statement, there's a question that we gave the candidates in advance so they could prepare for this. We're going to give them the opportunity to comment on something we did not ask about this evening. And I think we'll start with Jeff. So would you please state and answer a question you wish you had been asked?
I think the question I wish had been asked is, actually this has been pretty comprehensive. I was going to talk about the charter school. That's one of the reasons why I was so direct about it. But I think mostly the question that would be asked is, why have I been doing this so long? And I think when I originally went on the board, I stated I was only going to be for 2 terms. I really believed that. Since then, I've kind of expanded my role, and I've seen California go through all kinds of changes, and I see how hard it is to recover from politicians that are only there for 2 terms, and that there is some room for experience to come through and to last and to bring patience. I've seen economic downturns and upturns, and I've seen the patience that comes along with it. I reached out to community members. I've seen the emotional state. I met some wonderful people on staff and elected, and it just keeps me going. And even when I feel like not stopping, even when I feel like stopping, I want to continue. So.
Thank you. Michelle?
So as she mentioned, we had this question before, so I've been thinking about this question for a long time, and I had a lot of different ideas. And probably about a half hour before I came here, this is the question that came from me. And for those who know me, they know like I cry quite a bit when things are important or emotional for me. So the question is, what is the district's greatest strength? It's the people. From the students to the teachers to the district staff and the board and the community members who support the district. It's a first grader who donated all of her allowance to the over $100 to the Magical Bridge coin drive. It's a parent who used to teach in East Palo Alto who has volunteered her time in the classroom to help students who are struggling to learn to read. It's a kindergartner teacher who uses part of his lunch break to make sure his kindergartners are adjusting to lunch in the cafeteria. It's a community member who went up to a principal after a presentation and said, "How can I help at your school?" It's a principal who is spending extra time to help make sure we get a fantastic neighborhood library in the community where her students are. I feel so blessed to be a part of this wonderful and amazing community and school district, and I hope to be able to continue to serve with you for all of our students in the district.
Thank you. Bridget?
Okay, well, so I was just going to talk about my goals for the district. But I really do, I had thought about that question as well, and I really do just feel like there are so many, sometimes it seems like there are conflicting priorities, and there's, sometimes we can really get into like discussions about, which school is getting more, and how will we feel if we distribute, because the board is in charge of the budget, and how are things going, and if we do this, what's the perception if we spend this much on a chair for this teacher, and I feel like really what it comes down to is Sunnyvale School District is like a big family. And I was at an event the other night and someone said, we're like a sister school to you, and it just started making me feel like it's true, like it is a big family. You want to do what's right for the whole family. You want to support each other and, love one another and take care of each other and be responsible for each other. So I'm really hoping to get a position on the board so I can, make a difference and help the whole family. So.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Let's give a round of applause for this. Candidates will remain after the forum to give you a chance to talk to them individually. You may also pick up candidate literature at the table in the back of the room, the one with the red tablecloth, and visit lwvcs.org, that is the league website, in the coming days to find the video of tonight's forum. Go to the calendar on that website, scroll down to the listing for this event to find a link to the forum video. I also encourage you to check out votersedge.org, formerly Smart Voter, the League of Women Voters election information website. Among other valuable information content, it includes the money behind the political campaigns at the federal and state levels. I want to thank the audience for coming tonight. I also thank all the people who sent us questions by mail. We greatly appreciate the Sunnyvale School District for the use of the boardroom and for their KMVT crew whose work makes this forum available to Sunnyvale School District voters. We hope tonight's forum has helped you with your voting decisions. Please remember to vote on November 6th. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.